Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, we've been building up for the last month or so in eager anticipation for season 2 of our Stargate Syfy cult classics documentary. As you know, season 1 had 38 episodes. It's featured actors and actresses that appeared in the movie, the original Stargate movie with Kurt Russell and James Spader, the Stargate SG1 series, Stargate Atlantis series, Stargate Origins, and Stargate Universe. We've everyone on everyone from season 1 has appeared, from Alexis Cruz to Terrell Rozier to John Flanagan to Rachel Luttrell, and we're delighted to be back with season 2 with so many renowned actors and actresses lined up. And our special guest actor for this episode of our Stargate documentary in season 2, he played the character Kevin Elliott, Lieutenant Kevin Elliott, and the symbiote Lantash, and he was also appeared as the character Keras in Stargate Atlantis. It's the one and only Mr. Courtney Stevens. And Courtney, first of all, in terms of Stargate and your whole episode in the Stargate universe, you were a young actor, up-and-coming actor when you first got that role in terms of Kevin Elliott. Had you tried out for previous sort of minor roles within the Stargate franchise at that time? And obviously, the two major sci-fi shows in Vancouver at the time were Stargate and Battlestar Galactica, so it was a major coup for any up-and-coming actor to get credits or appearances on one of those. So, well, had you to wait a while to get your break in terms of Stargate, or was this the first audition you went for and tried out for the role of that Kevin Elliott character?
No, you're right that there are, you kind of wait in line a little bit. In Vancouver at the time, a lot of people were auditioning for it, and I had auditioned for a few other parts and came really close for some. So they were familiar with me. So I think this was my third or fourth audition over, I think that season, and it seemed like they were interested because they kept bringing me back. And then this was a good fit. And I thought, oh, I'm really gonna I'm not that I wouldn't put an effort into anything, but I think I got a coaching for this one and really was focused on doing a good job, because they were obviously interested, and I was interested in being part of the show too. So very happy that I was cast as Elliot.
And playing this sort of teen boy soldier, this sort of guy that was sort of thrown into the front lines, is almost like the World War II, where they're rounding up the youngsters and throwing them in the front line. You almost play that guy that's just done his junior cert, has been thrown into a world that is completely alien to him. He looks lost. He looks sort of starstruck with the environment. And you can see that sort of nervous tension and that nerves and the real element of scared and being like a lost child in the supermarket, wondering where his parents are.
Yeah, I think that was me. There was no acting involved. That was just me being scared, having like such a great, big guest starring role. It was one of my bigger parts, I think, in my early part of my career. So I'm joking. I wasn't scared, but I was also like, it was an opportunity. So I was certainly taking it seriously. And then that was easy to translate into the team. And it was also great having the three other actors in this young squad. It was almost like a pilot within the series as well. I think they were thinking about it as a spin-off, because I think Atlantis was in the air, so they were using it as a bit of a test ground to see if they could assemble a team for another series.
And in terms of starring alongside Richard Dean Anderson, when you finally got that break, and obviously the cast, Christopher Judge, were you going into that as a sponge, dare I say, getting on the set with them and trying to take up everything you can to pick their brains? Because in those sort of episodes, now you did get to come back in Stargate Atlantis. For many actors that appeared in Stargate, to get to come back again is very unique and sort of rare. So once you get an opportunity, I imagine, to share a screen or share a studio with the likes of Richard Dean Anderson, Christopher Judge, Michael Shanks, I suppose it's very much a learning curve as well. I suppose for a young actor, you almost feel like you're back to acting school again, I imagine.
Yeah, well, and Amanda Tapping as well. She was very very supportive. And I remember having lunches and things with her on set, and her being very open to bringing me in, because I had quite a bit to do in the first episode. And Richard wasn't around as much, but he was, I mean, he was a bit more of an intimidating figure. And I mean, that was his character, and that was the relationship as it was set up. Like I was kind of the younger version of him, was the way it was set up. But as an actor, I think he was very, very supportive as well. And Michael Shanks, I think because I do a lot of theater. I'm a theater actor, and Michael Shanks had gone to, there's a Stratford Festival. I mean, obviously one in the UK, but there's a large one in Canada. And he had gone there about five or 8 years earlier. And just that summer, I was going a couple months after shooting Proving Ground. So he was also willing to share all kinds of information of how that would work out. So it was, I felt like I was in good hands with the cast.
And in terms of Stargate, and obviously playing that sort of dying sort of man in terms of on his deathbed for most of the sort of episode, in terms of being kept alive, how did you sort of feel that you were sort of going to portray that character? What aspect did you want to give in terms of body motions and techniques, that you're struggling with every breath you take to try and sum up the injuries, sum up the energy to sort of fight through your holy demise, dare I say?
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's, for a long time, I think we were probably shooting 7 days or so. So to be injured and kind of limping and dead weight. And I think that I was bringing a fair bit of dead weight to it. And I remember Chris Judge was, by day 2, he was a little bit ticked off, and he had to keep dragging me around. He's a big guy. I mean, he's a football player. But I remember him like, can you just like put a little more weight on it? Do you have to lean on me so much? Do I have to drag you around? So it was kind of funny. But I mean, that was the part. I mean, I was injured for the majority of the episode. So I was, the challenge, I think, was to be frail, be injured, and also still have energy in the performance.
And that sort of hero sort of death scene, going out in your sword, in terms of doing one for humanity, in terms of going down with a sort of vengeance, in terms of almost like suicide bomber effect that you in the Middle East, that if you're going to go down, you're going to go down in a sort of blaze of glory. Did you feel that was a stunning tribute for a young lieutenant that obviously felt that his death wants to be remembered in a way that he just didn't want to die alone out in a field somewhere, that if he was going to go, he was going to go on his terms, dare I say?
Yeah, it was very much the hero's journey. And I speak with people, I've spoken with people after, and a lot of people were surprised that the arc was so short. And that they wanted more of Elliott, because also when it was quite a setup in Proving Ground. I mean, that was a very, very featured part. Like the writing of it was like, oh, we're establishing this character and this team, and they're going to go forward, was what it seemed like. And then I think, as I recall, there was the 2 episodes after when Elliott did die. It was supposed to be, I think there was something else happening in the writing, and then the person who was going to be doing that part got another series, and then so they brought in, I think they kind of brought in Elliott as a patch there. I don't think that was the original plan. Okay. But it worked out. But it did seem like to me like that there was a fair bit of investment in the original team. But then also we didn't see a lot of the other cadets as well. I mean, a few. I think David Kopp came back, and I'm not sure, who else came back. But it was interesting. Like I said, the original idea was that it was a pilot for Atlantis. And then they went a different direction.
And how did you feel making appearance in an Atlantis, playing a completely different character, Keras, a monogamous young man who had 5 or 6 children by the age of 25, but now almost he was sort of consigned to ending it all, dare I say, not a touch of depression or suicide, but he had no choice in terms of the way he was brought up by culture and society. It was a done thing to preserve his own kids that he had to take his life at this certain sort of age. Playing that medieval type, Celtic type character, obviously coming from a Taoiseach background, did you enjoy that variety and that sort of a change, and playing a monogamous type character, a man that had so many sort of dependents on his own name, coming from this, say, backward sort of medieval type village?
Yeah, it was different. Different world to inhabit. And then also, like you painted, it sounds like another hero. It's kind of nice to do another version of the hero's journey, and that he survives in the end, I think was the realization that he didn't have to take his life. He didn't have to, but he was willing to do so. But again, the commitment to that, to do that. I mean, it was not entirely unlike Elliott, like a commitment to a cause. Yeah, it was really cool. Also seeing that was pretty early on in Atlantis, so to see what they were doing with their first spin-off series was again great to be a part of. And originally I was up for it. Like I said, they talked about it as a bit of a pilot during SG1, and then I was up for one of the leads in Atlantis. And then it's funny. I remember I was doing a show in London, and they wanted a tape sent back for it to Vancouver. But this is what 15 years. It's hard to imagine. It was 15 years ago, and I couldn't just upload a video and send it back. The internet wasn't at that speed yet. So there was like, I had to find a place and get a tape and send it back, and will it get there in time? And it was really quite challenging. I don't think we ended up doing it. I think I was going to come back to Vancouver and we'd talk about it then. But as I said, it didn't work out. But then they gave me Keras, which was a great part.
And in terms of Courtney, in terms of the differences between the cast, I know it was the same director, same producer, same backstage sort of stunts guys, but did you feel arriving on Stargate Atlantis, obviously the sets were sort of fantastic in terms of how they laid it out, but you felt that this was a new sort of show on the premises with obviously new main stars and Jason Momoa, Rachel Luttrell, John Flanagan, that they were always trying to have their own independence, but still fall under the Stargate umbrella, but not to be say that we can stand on our own 2 feet as well.
Yeah, it was very. I think the good thing about it is that they had such success with SG1, and that they knew what they were doing, and so this was their own show. It was also still in Vancouver, so they borrowed a lot of the creative, and they borrowed a lot of knowledge as far as locations and where to go and how to package the show. But it was, yeah, it certainly stood on its own, and yeah, it was. But it didn't feel like sometimes a new show can feel like, oh, how are we going to do? Are we going to get any traction? I think they felt confident in the show, knowing that there was such a fan base from SG1.
And Courtney, just before I finish up with you, I believe you have been in Ireland in the past, and you visited our capital, County Dublin. What was your experiences there? Was it a holiday vacation, and did you get to see many of the sites? Did you venture outside the capital, or was it only Dublin you got to see of the Green Isle?
I was mostly in Dublin. I was working. A lot of my work is I'm a theater performer primarily, and I was performing with Cirque du Soleil as a clown, which is another conversation, and that's a lot of the other work that I do. And we were in Dublin, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic, and I remember going into a bar, and just so amazed. Like someone would get up and sing, and then someone else would get up and sing, and then someone else would get up, and that the celebration and the ability and the community of culture and sharing and history and the stories. Like every cab driver is just like a comic, and just telling stories. Like there's such a charm. There's such a charm. I was really charmed by it, and unfortunately, we were there for a week and then had to go. I think we were in Sweden after that, so we were touring quite quickly. But certainly want to come back because I was just charmed by the culture.
And Courtney, before we finish up, it's the sort of question we ask all our actors and actresses that we've interviewed, whether them in season 1 or season 2, and we'll pick the character, obviously the most memorable that sticks out, Kevin Elliott, Lieutenant Kevin Elliott. Let's pretend there was a Stargate encyclopedia, a franchise as such, and they put all the fictional characters that appeared in Stargate into that Stargate franchise dictionary, and they went down alphabetically, and they came to your character, Lieutenant Kevin Elliott, and under his synopsis they left 2 blank sentences, not an epitaph but a synopsis as such, and they got onto your talent agent, who got onto you, and they said, listen, we want Courtney J Stevens to write those two sentences to summarize the character Kevin Elliott. What would you like those 2 sentences to read?
Kevin Elliott saved the galaxy for you.
Kevin Elliott saved the galaxy for you. One sentence, short, simple, and sweet. On that note, Courtney J Stevens, an absolute pleasure talking to you on the airwaves today to relive your memories of your time on Stargate Atlantis and Stargate SG1. Stargate SG1 playing the Lieutenant Kevin Elliott and the symbiote Lantash, and your appearances in Stargate Atlantis as a young adolescent Keras. But for the moment, Courtney J Stevens, we wish you all the best. Hopefully we'll speak to you sometime in the near future again, and you'll get to reprimand another role in the Stargate franchise, ever evolving series, with a rumored new TV series and movie in the works in the next couple of years or so. It might be an opportunity to reprise a role, maybe as Keras or maybe another lieutenant. But for the moment, Courtney, take care. God bless and stay safe.
Thanks, Jim. Pleasure talking with you.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.